Okay, well, welcome back to my layout. Today what I'll do, it's a little editorial before I move on to other project. Just something that I was talking about recently with a bunch of people, and it's about the highly detailed freight cars that's available nowadays. So this is just my editorial, just my personal opinion. There's no good way or bad way of doing things, especially not in this hobby. It's whatever makes you happy, whatever you're seeking. And for me, I'm going for a balanced fleet of cars. So what does it mean exactly? Well, recently we've been very, very lucky to have models of freight cars, as an example, that are extremely highly detailed. They're very exact, and they have details that are so minute, minuscule, that it's very difficult to see them unless you're really, really up close, or even with a camera and you zoom in into the detail. That's when you see it. I think that's totally fantastic that we have that nowadays. That car in front of you, the GT boxcar, the 50-foot boxcar, that one's an Atlas. And I gave it a light weathering, and I weathered the trucks and the wheels, changed the couplers to KD, and it runs fantastic, no issue with it. And there's so many tiny details for the door-to-door stops, the ladders, the grabs, and the brake wheel, etc. It's fantastic. It's really, really well done, and I'm very happy that I got that car. And that follows the next one. It's an Intermountain cover hopper. It's quite a few years back, 6-7 years ago, as photo etch walking the roof walk. The details on the end are fantastic. The ladder, the grabs, the truck, the wheels, the brakes. We're not even going to talk about what's underneath, and personally I don't really care what's underneath as far as piping, since I don't see it and nobody else does unless we take it out and we're talking about a specific car. So I think those details are fantastic. Again, this one's Intermountain, the next one's Proto, so it's not extremely high-end. However, again, the ladders, the door, it's pretty decent. And the last one here, it's the Exact Rail cover hopper that I weather. Unfortunately, because the detail are so fine, I broke off both ends while just manipulating it, and the roof walk is a little bit, it unglues itself, but again, it's photo etch. It's a great model. And these are not top of the line by any means. But they work really good. They're a very, very nice one. So when I'm talking about a balanced fleet of cars, it's notwithstanding the fact that they're very nice cars, a more detailed one, I find that it comes to a point they're getting really expensive. And that's where my point of view, it seems, in certain circles, it's almost blasphemy. And don't get me wrong, high detail, exact model with a proper proportion, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great. However, personally, as my sets of value, I would call it, I find that there's an actual limit to what I considered acceptable for me. Again, I think highly detailed cars are great, at a proper number of ribs, they're the right place, and I need the detail for the brakes, the rigging is all fantastic. But I find that when you pay $65, $69, $70, $80 for a car, and that's becoming, to me, pretty outrageous. I mean, I don't have the largest fleet of cars, and I don't have a set number in my mind what I need for or what I want for my my layout, but I need, or I'm looking for, a very well balanced fleet of types of cars for the proper industry I have, types of cars that you would see during the era that I do model, and the type of cars that you would see under interchange with other railways. So it's not just CN, which I modeled, it's all the other railroad they deal with north and south of the border. So my editorial is, however nice those cars are, there's a limit how much I will spend for an actual freight car. And to me, spending $60, $70, $80 is just too much. I cannot justify it for me spending that amount of money for a car, for one car. Of course, there's always exceptions to the rules. There's some nice caboose I'm looking at. However, 125 bucks for a caboose, that's not going to happen. And there's some really nice flat cars coming out. Again, 79 bucks, it's not going to happen. So what do I do? Well, basically, there's online sites, there's hobby shops, and what I decided to do is mix it a little bit with cars that some people would not even bother looking at because they're older, their details are more crude, and they're not worth it. Well, I think having that point of view is missing the point a little bit. So what did I do? Well, contrary to what a lot of people think or say or do, I decided to look for the cheaper car. Because notwithstanding the high level of details that we see nowadays on one particular car in one setting, that's nice. But in a train and a layout, I believe that the fine detail get lost in the wider horizon, the wider level of details that you have on your layout. So, for example, this guy right here, it's a Lifelike Proto that I got a few years back for $10, 10 bucks. So I changed the wheels for a metal wheel set, I put KD coupler, and I weathered it. And when people come and play in the layout or do operation, what they see is the car weathering, and the reporting mark. They don't see the lack of detail as much. Or once you're running your train, you don't see it. It's gone. It's becoming invisible. Here's another example that I got not long ago at the hobby shop in the used section. This Attern mechanical reefer, $10. Again, I did the exact same thing. I changed the wheels, metal wheel set, because that's the standard on my layout. KD coupler, dull coat, and that's it. It works perfectly. It's well balanced, the weight is good, it tracks very nicely, never derails, doesn't uncouple, and it's a type of car that I was looking for the layout. Here's another example. That's another older Attern. I believe this one was a blue box, but don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Again, I'm looking, and I do have a smaller fleet of IQ boxcar, 40 and 50 foot boxcar for my industry, and this one came in right at the right time. Again, this one was $9, I believe. Those all Canadian price, $9. I did some weathering, dull coat, changed the wheels, weathered the wheels and the actual trucks and the coupler as well, and as far as I'm concerned, that works perfectly. And the next one, the paper product or wood product one, if I'm not mistaken, this one was a Lifelike. And again, I did some weathering, painting, change the wheels, weather the truck's KD coupler, and again, absolutely zero issue. So if you're up close, of course, you will not necessarily find the eye detail into those cars. But those 4 cars I just mentioned, the total of those cost is $40, less than the price of one brand new, super detailed, totally exact, with minute rivets at the right place. Now, there's no way I can justify having those 4 cars on this layout, those 4 cars I was looking for, at $40 or $50 or $60 each. Let's say for the purpose of average, that'd be, let's say $60 each. That'd be $240 right there for those 4 cars. And I pay $40 for all of them. And of course I had spare Intermountain wheel set, 33, 36 inch. I had a KD number 5 and 158 and a one with the whiskers. That works really well. And once they're in a train, like one of my friends said, you know what, once the train is running, you don't see the difference. And he's right. When they're stationary, if you put yourself right into it, of course you'll see it. It's the actual details are molded into place. It's lacking in finer detail, and but my layout is made for operation. And what I mean, it's we got a dispatcher, a bunch of people, there's a bunch of trains running all at once, following switch list and manifest, and that's when this layout comes alive. And it's pretty cool to see that and to do that. And having super detailed, highly accurate cards, great. However, for the price, I think that it's overlooked to have cars that doesn't cost as much, and you can do a little bit on them and it'll be as nice and they'll run as good as the most expensive one. But again, it seems to be that when I say those things or do those things in certain circles, it's kind of blasphemy. I'm doing it backwards. I'm not doing it right. Well, to each his own, and to me, I find that it works just great on my layout. So that was my editorial. So basically the point I'm making is, don't be afraid to ruffle feathers or doing it your way, because in the end it's your layout, whatever makes you happy. And it's not necessarily a money thing. I think it's up to a point, it's a personal value thing, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the way I go. So I do have a balanced fleet insofar as higher detail, lower detail, but those types of cars that you'll see on my layout are actually have a purpose. They actually belong to an industry, belong to an interchange with another railroad. It makes sense for me to have them. And I cannot justify the price, those high price, to make this fleet functional on my layout. But that's just my take. So thanks for watching, and there'll be more.